All right, welcome. We were just in executive session, and now we're back in regular session. We're now going to be moving to our approval section. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved, Kamilovich.
Second, Dolan.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I'm going to ask for an approval of the March 18th public hearing, regular and executive session minutes. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the regular and executive session minutes, along with the public hearing?
So moved.
Second, Baumstark.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Subos. Stefani.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now at our communications section. Tonight, we're honoring two board members that are retiring. We have Diane Stefani and Jim Baumstark. We come together to express our deepest gratitude and appreciation for the exceptional contributions of two outstanding outgoing members of our school board. They have both served Glenview District 34 for 8 years as board members and many more as volunteers through PTA, GEF, and sporting. First, we'd like to extend our sincere thanks to Diane Stefani for her thoughtful and dedicated service on the board. Diane has served as the board secretary, policy committee board rep, acted as the EdRed liaison, and is a member of the Personnel Committee. Her attention to policy, advocacy for educational excellence, and her work connecting the board with broader educational initiatives have made meaningful and lasting differences in our district. Thank you, Diane. We also especially grateful for Jim Baumstark for his outstanding work as board vice president, a member of the Citizens Finance Advisory Committee, the Compensation Committee, the True North Leadership Council, and as a board mentor. Jim's financial stewardship, commitment to staff and student well-being, and his guidance to new board members have strengthened our board and enriched our schools. Thank you, Jim. Together, Diane and Jim have made a remarkable impact on our community. During their time on the board, they have helped oversee the development and implementation of 2 strategic plans, guided the integration of our new superintendent, Dane Deli, and he's not new anymore, supported a successful infrastructure referendum, championed the addition of full-day kindergarten, participated in over 100 board meetings, and navigated the unprecedented challenges of a global pandemic. Their leadership, passion, and dedication to providing the best education for all students have set a high standard for public service, and their legacy will be felt for many years to come. I would be remiss if I also didn't thank David, John, Catherine, Bridget, Matthew, and Maggie for sharing their spouses and parents with us these many years. Thank you, Diane and Jim, for your exceptional service to all of Glenview. We wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and we are confident you will continue to make a positive impact on the lives of all of us around you. Thank you so much. Dr. Deli?
Thank you. No repeats here, but I was kind of struck by the maybe and then there were two phenomenon, because the three of us started at the same time. In fact, with your retirements, that leaves no board members who were here when I was actually hired. So I don't know if that should be unnerving for me or not, but this isn't about me. But 8 years is a significant amount of time to serve in the capacities that you both have. Together, I would like to thank both Diane and Jim for your 8 years of service as elected and as re-elected emissaries of the community. As school board members, you understand at all times that the community entrusts you with its 2 most valuable resources. You've heard me say this before. It's children and it's money. And at no time did you take either for granted. That was very evident in your deliberations over topics that, may have been very simple and others that were perhaps very complicated. You understand that children are the lifeblood of the community and that you represent all in the community, children, their families, taxpayers, those who may not even have children in the school district or ever did. You represent them as well, and you did so. Your leadership has helped advance District 34 in many ways. Your support for our schools has created strong footings for the evolving story of the community and its schools. There's much more to come, but you've been a part of the historical underpinnings of, you know, almost a decade of what has happened here, and that has far-reaching effect. Serving as an elected official is not easy work. Successes are sometimes short-lived or even forgotten. Challenges can sometimes be complicated with no one correct answer. Think about budgetary challenges, think about COVID. I don't need to give you the list. There's not always one correct answer, but I think you helped us really participate as a group in coming up with some of the best decisions at the right time, the right place, in certain very specific conditions. Decisions always need to be made. You always used your intellect, your objectivity, and your empathy. And you're both actual human beings. You're not AI generated. I don't think. You spend time away from your families in service of the work. People don't really understand that. There's preparation, there's seat time, there's committees, as Scott has mentioned, and your families share us, or share you with us. And I know sometimes that's a real juggling act. But public service is really a phenomenal thing, and I think public service at the local level is one of the best examples of a democratic society. I think it has the most impact. So I thank you as well and wish you and your families the very best. And
Hold on one second. Does anybody else want to say anything, or?
I'm just going to say, thanks, miss you guys. It was a pleasure joining the board when you guys were veterans, and appreciated your friendship and mentorship to get me involved. And you did such a great job, I decided to do it again, so thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Dowd?
yeah, well, we also have a token of our appreciation that we'd like to
Yeah, if you guys will come up, and
give you.
we got the board and the school district had some gifts.
Diane, this is for you. You can open it anytime you want.
Can't say that.
This is for you.
Yeah, you gotta hold it off. That's it, 8 years, that's all you get.
Here, good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Still wondering if it's a.
Actually, I'll say a word or two.
Yeah, I
if
was gonna
that's
say,
all
do you
right.
guys have any comments? Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first, I mean, it definitely has been an honor to be on this board and serve the Glenview community for 8 years. I'm, you know, humbled, I guess that's the cliche word to say, but by the, you know, the trust that the community places in electing and re-electing us. When I think about how 8 years have passed, I'm still remembering my first board year. Yes, we started with Dane, but I also was the board rep who, my youngest, Maggie, was graduating 8th grade the year I joined, and so I was handed Maggie my diploma when she was graduating from Springman. And in 3 weeks, I'm going to WashU to see her graduate as a senior. So that's how, for me, that's how I've been marking my time on the board. And I do want to just thank all the fellow board members, past and present, for all your partnership over these years. Also, all the administrators, thank you. You've been a pleasure to work with and hang out with at various social events and get to know as people as well as colleagues. And not everyone's here, but like all the faculty and teachers and students and parents that I've met over the time, it's just been a great experience. You actually had a little bit of a laundry list of reflections, but I also I had my own list of just things. My wife Bridget was asking me, like, well, what did you do over the last 8 years, and like, what are you proud of? And you know, I just made a little list here, and some of it's going to overlap with what Scott said, but I'm going to go ahead and give my list. Yes, one was Dane's onboarding. You know, like Diane and I were on the first board together, and got to oversee that successful leadership transition. The first strategic plan, that was the next year. It was a big community effort and partnership with all the players. Full day. This is in sort of chronological order, but not perfect. Full day kindergarten. That was a real win for this board, I think. I'll downplay this one, but, you know, the navigating COVID and all of its implications, that was a long period of time, but definitely hard work for us on the board. We had the successful capital referendum to facilitate all the improvements in reconstruction. I also put on there the early bond issuance, right? Part of that was we had to issue all these bonds, and we took advantage of capital market conditions by issuing them when rates were, what, 1%?
Yeah, I think our all-in true rate's 1.4%. Yeah.
Then there's not only the referendum, but then there's the whole actual construction. That's what we've been doing for the last 3 years, is monitoring and making sure that that's going well. There's been 4 teacher contracts and GPA contracts. I was the board rep on 2 of them. I think 4 of them have been passed while I've been on the board. Those were big, heavy lifts and something I'm proud of, too. Then we had strategic plan number 2, roughly after that. Then the whole bringing the special education program home to Glenview. That took several years, but that's something the board oversaw. And then as part of that, the ongoing exit process from True North, but that's something we've been working on as well. And then, too many to count, but there's been many curriculum redesigns and updates over these 4 years that I'm also proud of. That, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of things I've talked about isn't directly about kids, but I wanted to end with that. One was the language arts redevelopment. We had a bunch of math new curriculums. We had the new science program and social studies, right? All these programs came into play over the last 8 years. And then I guess the last thing I'm proud of is just sort of upholding and advocating for the whole child kind of throughout the whole thing. That's been one of my guideposts for making decisions for the board, and I hope the board will continue to keep that as their guidepost in making decisions. So thank you again for all the service, or for all your partnership, and that concludes my comments.
Thanks, Jim. Diane, do you want to say anything?
I don't have prepared comments, but I just wanted to briefly say that, you know, Jim and I served at the same time period, so I don't want to reiterate everything that he stated so eloquently. But this is a spectacular community to be a part of, and I think all of us who are on the board realize just how incredibly lucky we are to serve this community, to work with this administration, to work with the staff, to serve these children, and just be a part of this, because it really is something that's special. I'm very grateful to everyone for letting me be a part of it. And I will exercise my right to have my 3 minutes to speak, and I'll be back. Just kidding. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. Kind of like having our extra time to talk tonight. It was fun. We'll move along, though. Jim, any other communications?
No, thank you.
Next, we have our audience comments. Do we have any audience comments tonight?
We do not.
Okay. Next, we'll move along to consideration of other resolutions. The consent agenda. We have the 25020 personnel report, the 25021 payroll warrants, the 25022 vendor warrants, and the 25023 Easter Seals extension contract. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Moon.
Second, Dolan.
Gabby, may I have a roll call vote?
Dolan,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Kamalevich, Baumstark,
Aye.
Stefani.
Hi.
Motion carries. Now we have our consideration of other resolutions, discussion and action. We have the 25024 resolution to withdraw from Maine Township Treasurer. Eric?
So, as it states, this is a resolution before the board tonight for review and vote, which would allow us to withdraw from the Maine Township Treasurer. On August 9, 2024, PA 1030790 allowed this board to, first and foremost, appoint a trustee to represent the district among the Maine Township trustees who oversee the Maine Township Treasurer. And this board acted on that and appointed me the trustee last year for this fiscal year duration. What that public act also did was allow this board to withdraw from the Township Treasury Services altogether and appoint an in-house treasurer. And so based on the board's recommendation, we've got a resolution on the agenda tonight, along with several others that will both allow us to withdraw from the township and take steps toward handling the treasury services in-house as well. So this first resolution is to withdraw from the Maine Township treasurer.
Does anyone have any questions?
Just a point of clarification, I guess the way I read this, I wouldn't characterize it as taking the treasury services in-house, because part of this resolution is still to employ an external manager for the treasury funds, right? So it's maybe the high-level decision-making is coming in-house, but it's not like our internal staff's going to be trading bonds all day.
Yeah, the actual function is not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks, yeah, that's a point of
But
clarification.
from an in-name standpoint,
In name,
Yeah.
exactly.
In name, yes.
I mean, functionally, isn't this basically like we're switching banks? Is that a good way to think of this? Like like we were using Chase and now we want, I mean, no, this is
I would look at it as if we're leaving Merrill Lynch and going to Morgan Stanley.
Stanley, right? It's a complicated process to go
Right.
through that. And the law now allows us to do this, right? Before this, I guess that's another point of clarification, right? We're kind of forced into the arrangement we used to have by statute.
In Cook
There's a new
County-
statute that gives districts more flexibility in choosing how they manage their
Exactly.
funds.
And this is only true in Cook County, and the rest of the Collier County is, most of the time, it's the business manager who's the treasurer. So, yes, this new public act allows in Cook County for us to completely
So that's,
withdraw.
this maybe to point out for, that's the timing, that's what's driving the timing here, right? It's the
Exactly.
statute change.
Yep.
Any other questions?
In the memo, there's a bullet point about building an investment management team to oversee financial operations. Is that, by that investment management team, do we mean the business office, or are we contemplating an advisory team that, say, advises the business office?
That's right. And so the next agenda item is a representative from PMA, who is the administrator for ISLOF, the Illinois School Liquid Asset Fund, which our current treasurer invests most of the money in the township with, and also part of the plan for our funds moving forward.
Okay, all right.
All right. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Moon. Aye. Supos. Nelson.
Aye.
Kemalevich. Aye. Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now, we have our 25025 resolution for PMA ISLOF investment option presentation.
That's right. So I've asked Charlie Zaker to join us tonight from PMA. So like I said, I've asked PMA to come and speak today a little bit about ISLOF, what that looks like, some of the services they provide, because they will be our partner and help advise moving forward if the board so chooses to act on these next couple resolutions. So this is another resolution that you're reviewing and being asked to vote on tonight. And so I'll hand it over to Charlie.
Thank you, Eric. Charlie Zacher from, close. You wouldn't believe how many different pronunciations I get of it. I actually had, it's actually a Polish last name. I had a Polish crew come in to do some countertops maybe about 15 years ago. He goes, Mr. Chahor. And I said, no, it's Zacher. He goes, no, it's Chahor. I'm like, okay. So anyway, again, I'm Charlie. I've been with a company called PMA for the last 25 years, and PMA is a specialist in public funds. So Eric, I'll have you advance to the next slide, kind of talk about a little bit PMA is and what our background is. We've been around serving the public sector, mostly school districts, municipalities, villages, but school districts is our bread and butter for the last 40 years, formed in about 1984. Who do we work with? Right now, we work with over 500 Illinois school districts. That includes community colleges as well as the Cook County treasurers. As Eric mentioned, that would also include the Maine Township treasurer as well, uses the pool. Peer districts that we work with in your area, just kind of listed out some that are, kind of like-minded, like structure-wise. You can see them there. Wheeling 21, districts 59 to 11, Mount Prospect 57, and a host of others here in the area as well. So those are just some of your peers that use this program that I'm going to describe here over the next few minutes. As I mentioned, we work most exclusively with public funds. We collectively have about 170 employees. We are headquartered in Naperville, right off of I-88 and Route 59. If you've ever driven over that way, it's right by the Nicor gas building over that way, and that's where our offices are. We have about 100 employees in that office at this time. Collectively, we work through 27 different states managing what we call LGIPs, or local government investment pools, which I'll describe here in a minute, with assets totaling over $121 billion in assets. So, Eric, if you advance to the next slide for me. So what do you get when you come with PMA? What will the district have access to? So there's always a two-person team. It would be myself, kind of on an overseer level, and then also a day-to-day contact that the business office and the superintendent would have access to at all times. It comes with a cash flow analysis, which is included. It's kind of our signature program. It'll be something you're probably not used to seeing when you're under the, as part of the treasurer, and I'll kind of go through a quick picture of what that would look like as well. From the investment side, nothing will really change other than the fact that you'll have more autonomy and control and transparency in what those investments are. The investments we offer are state statute compliant, aligned with the district's investment policy. It comes with credit monitoring, and we get that broad market coverage. So not a ton of difference, because everything you were investing in previous is still going to be true in this as well. Truthfully, the public funds investment realm is plain vanilla. We go by the same core tenets that drive us, which is safety, liquidity, and yield in that order, making sure principal's safe, that there's enough money to pay the bills, and then finally enhancing the yield as much as possible. Okay? We also, one of the benefits of the assets that we have under the liquid asset fund is we do achieve that same economies of scale that you might see as an advantage as a treasurer by pooling your money. Again, those 500 districts are pooling their money in this pool, which creates this economies of scale, which is the largest, allows us to get institutional, Wall Street pricing at levels that wouldn't be necessarily a retail investor, which you might get if you go out in the market as an individual. Also comes with that would be significantly subsidized checking accounts through our partner, the custodian of our liquid asset fund pool, which is BMO Harris. So we've explored those options here with the district as well. A last thing would be bond proceeds management. It doesn't sound like you're going to be issuing debt anytime soon, but should you issue debt, we would help manage that process in the IRS regulations as well.
2033.
2033. So what is the liquid asset fund? So oftentimes, if you go outside this universe or outside the Treasury universe, PMA is often synonymous with the liquid asset fund. We are different. We are actually employed by the liquid asset fund. We are the administrator, the advisor, the marketer, and distributor of the pool. So what is the liquid assets? We actually answer to a board much like this one. The board is the fund itself. Again, ISLAF stands for, I won't read it across, it's a tongue twister. But we are oversaw, or our bosses are made up by the three executive directors of IASB, IASBO, and then IASA. So, and then our board is comprised of 3 members of each of those. There's 3 school board members, so someone like each of you could have a spot on that at some time. 3 school business officials, someone like Eric, 3 superintendents, someone like Dr. Deli here. Okay, and then we answer to that board, and they set our parameters, our pricing structures, and our contracts.
How long are the terms for the board members?
That are on that board?
Yeah.
They are on for a minimum of 3 years, but then they can, believe it or not, school board members are the hardest ones to get because you're already volunteering for something. You have to volunteer for something else too. So it's not always easy to get a school board member on, but it's 3-year terms and with the option to stay and go forth. And much like this, they would have you go through the cycle, becoming chair, vice chair, and so on and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay. So what is the cost of this compared to what you're paying to kind of the treasurer? So we offer everything on a net rate basis. So everything we provide is the district receives a net rate. So there's never an invoice, there's never a bill to approve, but there is a parameters for what we do. So let's say you have the money market rate that we offer you is at 5%. There will be that's on a net rate basis, and that is defined by this pricing structure you see right there. So on average, I like to say it comes out to about 20 to 21 basis points to work with the pool, work with this portfolio. So if the district's receiving 5%, the gross rate is 520 or 521. Does that make sense? If we offer a CD at 4.5%, the gross rate was 470, 471. That's all disclosed on the confirmations that you have. but again, so it comes off the top, and that's the pricing. Now, that pricing is independent of, like, for instance, when the township treasurer invests through us, it's the same pricing, okay? So I touched a little bit on the cash flow analysis, and this is really one of the benefits that you'll get when you kind of take your portfolio under your own guidance, is you'll get your picture here. And what I've got here is this is a Cook County district. It's a typical cash flow, what it looks like. And what you'll see in that mountain graph is that mountain, that blue line at the top, that zigs and zags is the inflows and outflows of revenues and expenses, right? So generally you'll see peaks and valleys in most of the districts in the northern Illinois region, right? You get paid more or less twice a year. You get paid in the case of Cook County, March and hopefully August. In the Collier counties, it's June and September. That's when you pay your property tax bills. That's when you get your most amount of money. And then your revenue falls off until you get to the next tax date. So what we do with this plan is identify that high point in revenues, in your fund balances, I should say, and then also your low point. And then from there, we can structure an investment plan in place. I don't know exactly what your cash flow is going to look like. It will probably have a similar picture to this, and determining on what that low point is and what that high point is we'll work together with Eric and the rest of the business office to come up with that picture. And then from there, we'll be able to put it in an investment plan.
Eric, this kind of looks really close to our fund balance and our expenses.
Yep. Okay. So
Except in Cook County, it could be like 12 months before we get the money out of the school.
So we actually build that in. There's been, when Cook didn't pay until it was January a few years ago, we had to, we always try to be conservative and make sure there's adequate liquidity. 4 months without receiving payment was tough on some districts, and some districts actually had to go into some TAWs. But
Yeah, instead of TAWs, we happen to be able to tap into a working cash bond to float us for that period, but yeah, we'll probably have to take some of those considerations moving forward.
so it's definitely a danger. Cook County will probably err more conservatively, at least initially here for a while. Cook got on a really nice schedule in, say, 2010 through COVID of paying on time, and then COVID hit, and it's been a mess ever since. This last year was the first year since 2020 that it's been what I would call normal. March is never the issue. The issue is always whether our bill is going to come out.
Well, I'd like
usually
to
August
just
1.
point out while we're talking about it, though, this is really politics between the assessor's office and the treasurer and the board of review, really.
Yes.
I don't want to put it on COVID. It's really politics. Thank you.
So how does that procedure, just a little bit, again, I already outlined that everything is in state statute compliant, follows the district's investment policy. We leverage our network of banks. Again, we use economies of scale. We work with over 1,000 banks across the nation. And what we do is then solicit the best rates and then go back actually to the business office and Eric. So we actually never take discretion over this portfolio. It will be, the money sits in cash. We recommend investments based upon that cash flow graph, which I just showed you. And then finally, it's at the treasurer, in this case, Eric's decision to green light that particular investment or not. Okay? So I think that might be the biggest change that you see is, again, is the control, the transparency. So I'll have you go to the next slide, and what that'll show you is this is a sample portfolio of what is in, I just pulled this random and pulled the name off, but it might be tough to see up on the screen, but you'll see the type, it'll say a CD or the liquid maxes, the money market. You'll have the date we traded it, the date it settled, the date it matures. You'll have the entity, the name, the type of investment. In most cases, these are all CDs. The cost of that investment, the rate it's earning, and then the value that it has that when it matures. So what's kind of be nice is that, at any time, and I think I've got the next slide, will show you our online system, is that it's our proprietary system. You have 24/7 access to go and see exactly how much cash you have in the account, exactly what your investments are earning, and exactly when they're mature. So there'll be a level of transparency and reporting that Eric would be able to provide to the board through this program. Could you go on to the next one slide for me? So if you decide that this is something you want to do, what are the next steps? What do we need to do? So we would have to establish a master account with ISLAF. That's pretty straightforward paperwork. The hardest part of it actually is the next section that we're asking the board to do, which is the resolution. And you'll note that the resolution is simply granting the district the ability to work with ISLAF. There's no contract involved. If you don't want to work with ISLAF in the future or at some point you don't like how it's working, there's no contract. You simply pull your money and go somewhere else and go do something else, okay? maybe the most time-sensitive or that require the most time, I should say, would be the establishment of the checking accounts, breaking away from the treasurer, and I would work closely with Eric and the rest of the business office to get that up and running as soon as possible. It takes about 8 weeks. Again, the checking accounts would be housed through BMO Harris. So it's, they're one of the largest regional, banks in, certainly in Illinois, and throughout the country as well. Next, we want to update the direct deposit information, so you do get those revenues from Cook County and from the state. They're actually going to ISLAF right now through the township treasurer. But we still would need to tweak that account so that it actually doesn't reference the treasurer anymore. It's now strictly, Glenview 34s. Just a paperwork issue that we'll work on doing that. And again, you'll have myself and another colleague and the rest of our team of employees and force to assist you along the way, every step of the way. I think that was my last slide.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one clarification question. Is it ISLAF or ISDLAF? Because I want to make sure that it's consistent throughout all the documentation.
It's DLAF, so
Okay.
Illinois School District Liquid Asset Fund.
I don't know if we need to make the adjustment in the investment transition portion, but we left out a D.
We'll get that revised.
Just,
Yes, on our
I
agenda,
thought I saw it a lot. Well, no, in the actual
in the memo.
memo.
Yeah. So we need to adjust the memo to reflect ISDLAF and the resolution PMA ISDLAF. Is that good? Does everybody get what we're doing and good with it? I mean,
I just
good
have a quick
with the
question, like,
questions?
it's called a fund, but then like the list you showed up there has a lot of individual securities too. It's like, I guess I'm expecting it to be like kind of a mutual fund purchase, but it seems like it's not quite that. so.
Exactly. It's actually a great question. So there are two components of it. So the fund itself is a money market fund, right? So that's where the dollars, where you would have the dollars start there as a base. So the level of dollars we leave in that fund would be determined by that cash flow program we put together.
Is that what's like listed as max and
Okay. So there's two
liquid account balance and max account
Yeah,
balance?
so there's two components to the fund. There's liquid and max. Max pays a little bit more, but you have to have the dollars initially invested in there for 14 days. Liquid is your checking a portion on there, so it's a little more expensive. The rate is 3 or 4 basis points less than the max rate. But if you do direct deposit, which you're always doing, there is no vesting period in the max, so you're always benefited to keep the much money in the max as possible. That's the money market portion of the pool. Okay, so again, from there, then we also offer that cash flow in the fixed rate portion of the program too. So we don't want to, our philosophy at PMA is to minimize liquidity as much as possible. We believe over the long run that your investment plan should be really quite simple in that you match your assets to your liabilities, so we'll fund expenditures, we'll go out as far on the yield curve as possible. And then if you have reserve dollars or dollars that go beyond meeting your first year or so of expenses, we'll ladder that out into some type of ladder, CD ladder. Probably not extending much beyond 2 years, depending on your cash situation, which I don't have a complete picture of yet, but that would be our overall strategy. Minimize liquidity, put assets out, matching them to liabilities. We'll match them to have payrolls, payables, and debt service payments, and then beyond that, we'll have dollars in a laddered portfolio.
And we, in this case, is PMA, right? I'm also just trying to understand, again, the relationship with PMA versus ISDLAF.
ISDLAF.
So I would say we being ISLAF. So everything everything you're doing is through ISLAF. We are employed by ISLAF. Okay? So everything would be as part of the ISLAF, as your ISLAF account.
I guess the word fund in the name ISLAF is throwing me because it's more than a fund. It's like a program.
It's a program.
Okay.
It is exactly a program. So, and that was evolved when they started the program in 80s, 85. It was strictly as a fund. It was only money, it was a place you parked your dollars, liquid dollars, and then we grew it into more of a service model. Okay?
Then you mentioned there's no trading authority, though, like every trade you're gonna make, you call Eric and say, can we buy this? And he'll say yes, that's how it
Exactly.
would work.
Yes. Yeah, no
Like,
discretion
how often do you
taken.
expect to be calling Eric? Is it like, he gets 5 calls a day, like?
let's say March and April, he will getting more calls, because you're getting a bunch of different, I'm sorry, not March. March and April for sure, and then again in August, September, he will be getting more calls, more emails from us. But I think after that, we'll try to monitor the liquidity level. So we may have, let's say, to meet your payroll, let's say it's a $4 million on the 15th, and we had $4 million investment come due, but your AP came in short. We might go to Eric and say, hey, your liquidity level's at X, we targeted it to be at Y, let's go invest another $1 million out for another 6 months or hit the next payroll date. So,
Okay.
It's a lot more dynamic than we have right now. And our funds are with ISLAF right now, through the treasurer, right, of Maine Township?
a large portion of them are.
Right.
I don't know exactly what the overall portfolio is, but right now, Maine Township Treasurer does deposit. It's all of the underlying entities' tax receipts come to ISLAF.
Any other questions, thoughts? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the resolution as amended by James.
So moved.
Second?
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Supos. Nelson.
Aye.
Kamalevich. Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Dolan.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. It was a good presentation.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Next, we have the 25026 resolution to appoint Assistant Superintendent for Business Services, CSBO, Eric Miller, as District Treasurer.
And this will just put a bow, this resolution I'm asking everyone to review and vote on tonight on both the withdrawal and our involvement with ISLAF moving forward. And as the treasurer, now you kind of have an idea about what that will look like.
So we'll be able to ask you more granular data on our fund balance as we move forward, correct? And you'll have
That's right.
access to it?
Yep.
Okay.
Wonder if there might be an opportunity when we do the annual CFAC cycle to do like a year, a review the previous year, have you call out stuff, since you'll have more visibility as to what happened. And
Yes.
what we should think of, yeah.
Yes.
Or if there's
and-
standard reporting, I might even suggest something in the report section. On
Yeah.
the True North Board, for example, there's like a nice little cash summary in every board meeting, which is kind of nice. I think it was
summary.
always kind of hard to get because of the treasurer didn't really
Especially
have
because
good
we're,
reports.
yeah. And we're moving away from referendum expense report.
Exactly, and so we can figure out some monthly, maybe a quarterly statement that we put out. I'll start to work with these guys and see what the reporting looks like and what we have access to, and we'll put that together.
Sounds good. Is there any other questions? And so we're appointing the CSBO, our treasurer. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the appointment of Eric as District Treasurer as presented?
So moved, Kamalevich.
Second, Stefani.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Nelson.
Aye.
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani. Dolan.
Aye.
Moon.
Aye.
Supos.
Motion carries. Now we have the 25027 resolution setting a hearing for the interfund transfer from the Ed Fund to the O&M.
So we reviewed these two transfers last month. I've got them both on the screen for your review once again. We're reviewing both. I'm asking the board to vote on this first resolution, which sets a hearing, like all the other hearings we do, for the May 12th meeting at Lions School, where you can hear from the community about the specific transfer from Ed to O&M. The second transfer that's on the agenda tonight is just a review of then, after that transfer is completed or voted on, the move from O&M to capital projects for the full 11 million. It's on tonight's agenda just for review, but we'll ask the board to vote on both next meeting.
So we won't be voting on this right now.
You're going to vote on this, which is a resolution to set the hearing for May.
Oh, setting the hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
So the action item that we're speaking about right now is to set the hearing, so we can ask the board to vote on both of these at the May 12th meeting.
Right, okay. Is there any other questions? Can I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved. Baumstark.
Second, Kamalevich.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Kamalevich.
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Stefani.
Aye.
Dolan,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we have the 25028 interfund transfer O&M to capital projects.
Yeah, and this is just part of the same. I just wanted to bring both agenda
I just
items.
want to remind people that we overfund our ed funds so that we were able to do this. Is this part of this?
It's part of it, yeah. I mean, obviously, as we drew down,
Right,
or we're
because of
drawing
our
down.
expenses for
Yeah,
our capital projects.
But the ed fund has the vast majority of our fund balance.
Any questions? Can I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
So moved, Moon.
Second, Dolan.
Gabby, may I have a roll call?
Baumstark,
Aye.
Stefani, Dolan,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Kimilevich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we have the 25029 2026 ISB Consolidated District Plan. Matt?
Yes.
Doctor, before you go, Charlie, you may leave.
You don't have to
if
watch.
so choose. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So I'm pleased to report this plan to you. I first have to thank my colleagues, actually everybody, including Eric. He's already had his time tonight, but I do
That's
need to
right.
recognize.
It's nice to hear you speak.
You can see it's a large plan, and it really does commit and communicate to the Illinois State Board of Education regarding our goals and objectives for all of our entitlement grants. Those do include Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and then our IDEA grant for both preschool and the flow-through. So that's part of the reason why it's so long, and every one of those categories has specific criteria, basically our promise and commitment in ways we're going to spend the money on behalf of our children, our services, our needs, our commitment to our programming. So I'm seeking your approval tonight so that I can submit it to the Illinois State Board of Education tomorrow. And as soon as they release the funding allocations, we can start writing the actual grants themselves.
And we do this every year.
Exactly, yes.
And in the past, before it was consolidated, you used to have to do it separately, correct?
Yes, for each grant,
And
right?
this allows us to also braid our funding better?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or thoughts? All right, can I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented?
Second.
Gabby, you may have a roll call.
Stefani, Dolan,
Aye.
Moon, Supos, Nelson,
Aye.
Kimilevich,
Aye.
Baumstark.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll now move to our discussion section. We have a preliminary set here for the board meeting dates. Is there any discussion?
The September 22nd, I will not be able to attend.
It is a holiday, correct?
It is a holiday.
So we will probably be changing that. That's our board self-evaluation. And so we'll just take that off of the table right now, but we'll be changing the date for the board self-evaluation. Is that okay?
Good with me.
All right. And then we have next our PACE instructional mandate framework.
Yes, I have a brief presentation. Let me
Excellent.
send it up to the screen, hopefully. Okay. So thanks to our friends at the Illinois State Board of Education and our legislature group, we have a new mandate.
Unfunded?
Oh, you stole my thunder.
That was perfect, right on
I was going to ask the
cue,
same question.
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah. We're all
Unfunded. And while it is chock full of good ideas, no additional time support. So what are we talking about here? So PACE is the Illinois Post-Secondary and Career Expectations Framework. So it brings career planning, post-secondary thinking down, really which used to be a high school kind of space and category, into the middle school level, into 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And you could see some of there's a lot of text and criteria, but some of the underlined words I highlighted just to kind of pinpoint that the verbiage around this is we need to give strong effort and try to see where we can bring this type of programming to our children, possibly within our current curriculum and teaching and learning. That last paragraph there does kind of promote the notion that this is about preparing children for high school, where college and career readiness standards exist, and that type of planning is a little more significant versus the middle school years. So if you're curious about how these things come to fruition, I just, for the fun of it, included the Public Act. I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. Well, here it is, how it went. And it is interesting, a good civics lesson, all these people involved to make this mandate happen. And then there is a Illinois State Board of Education Student Assistance Commission site, which is also designed to help support the programming behind the curriculum expectations. And so the curriculum expectations, and again, I apologize for a lot of the text, part of the mandate too is to post onto our website information, and we will post this presentation. But you can see that the words are exposed and supported. That's interesting. Usually mandates are shall and will. So much of the exposure and supporting of students will be through what we believe to be our social and emotional curriculum. Because when you look like at 6th grade, for example, growth mindset, we already work in that space, and we have curriculum and we have learning around that. So much of 6th grade, we're feeling very comfortable that this can already be delivered through our current curriculum instruction structures. 7th grade, you can see a little bit more depth in terms of career interests, some other types of social, emotional, and executive functioning. 8th grade, this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of work. In particular, you can see the third category under exposure, which is financial literacy, which again is a great idea. We're all for it. We're just going to have to find the space, the time and space to teach it. We are in the process of surveying our middle school staff. In social studies, we have a few units on sort of national and global economics and that, and maybe that's a good fit. We really want it to make sense to a student and fit into this whole notion that they have some control and some future in something like financial literacy. And then a few more spaces, one of those being completing a career survey. Right now, we don't have that as a systematic experience for 8th graders, so we'll look to bring in something where we'll provide that for each 8th grade student. And so some of this we are going to need to develop and figure out where it's going to fit into our existing school day, really. So we have spoken with our middle school staff. They understand or realize that we're looking at our social emotional learning standards and curriculum and where we could deliver these PACE content standards. We do have a life skills curriculum, which is excellent, and it has a lot of depth, and again, that might be a nice fit for some of these categories. It's usually taught as a component of physical education. Some of our encore lessons also, in particular, like STEM. STEM, they do spend time talking about STEM careers. Now, this needs to be a little bit broader, a bigger career picture, but again, we do a lot. It's in modern media as well. Children explore career opportunities. Because this is heavy in high school and there's the matriculation process, we will be collaborating with Glenbrook South, learning how they're aligning and their work and ways that we can enhance and connect with the high school. And then as I was mentioning, we will need to add some content into our curriculum. It just comes with these mandates. And with that,
I see you're going to collaborate with the high school, hopefully, because they've already been doing this, it sounds like.
yes, I mean, they are
Do you think they'd be amenable to sharing some of the assets they already have? Okay. It's just something to explore.
Yeah.
Is there an expectation of a report out to the state, or do we just keep this information in case we're ever asked?
Well, so it's interesting. So, we're about to go through our North Cook ISB audit. And this is a standing audit item, but it says starts July 1st. So it's definitely going to be a part of the curriculum auditing process. I don't know so much about the student data we would collect, like in the surveys and that sort of thing, but they will be looking for curriculum content around like the financial literacy and the deliverables in the mandate.
So we'll be keeping record of what we're doing and then present it as requested. basically.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
I do want to maintain that they say supported and exposed.
Well, that's kind of my question. What's the metric by which exposure and support are
Measured.
evaluated or assessed? Because, I mean, and I think this is the challenge, and maybe this is one of the things before they start to do any of these audits, to really ask that prospectively. Say, okay, what's, exploring career interest, we have a career day. If it's extracurricular, does that satisfy, check the box? Or is it something that is, more iterative, based on interests of the individual to really facilitate that exposure and expanding the universe of what you know versus what you've been exposed to because of your family or your community? I feel like this is one of those where perhaps we can ask questions, not in a defensive fashion, because they're probably not getting these from everybody else. They're probably getting some pushback on it, but more in a constructive nature to say, this is a great ambition, but realizing, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve has to be at some point measurable. And can we potentially help define what that measurement looks like? Because while it is relevant for District 34, I can't imagine this is the target district for why this mandate has been issued.
Just based on who sponsored the bill alone.
That's a good point. And as a township, we have been discussing this mandate, and you're right, everybody is interpreting it. And we share what we think is a best practice or a high-quality metric, but some of this is ingrained, like Northbrook Glenview 30 has a career day already established. They've been doing it, yeah, so.
Well, and this might even be one of those things where perhaps we can use our data-driven approach to guide the conversation and track backwards or set a foundation going forward. It just could be another thing where we, stick a flag in the ground and say we're not going to start to ask some of these questions as part of some of our other ongoing active survey research, et cetera, that could be correlative to some of these outcomes.
Thanks. Anybody else have any thoughts on this?
To that point, I wonder if with that, we could ask the question from GBS, like if they have any metrics on this, because I'm reading this, part of this says it's meant to prepare students to more fully engage with the framework throughout the critical high school year. So like, what would they want kids to show up with? And maybe that provides us a little bit more of a target here.
Yes, yeah.
Other than that, I just want to say, yet again, I appreciate the work that has gone into and will go into trying to figure out how to stuff another unfunded mandate into our already overloaded school curriculum.
As we fight over minutes.
Well, and some of this stuff, you look at it like you could have, the state could have funded, pull-out opportunities, like career day for everybody, every middle school, on a certain date or quarterly date. There's just a lack of mindset on what to do here. But we've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm. Everybody got it? Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Silverman. Good, 6 documents, that's great. Next, we have our audience comments. Are there any audience comments, Rebecca?
There are not.
Okay. Now we have our report section. We have the number 1 FOIA report, the number 2 referendum expense report, The number 3, construction change order report. The number 4, current year financial projections. And the number 5, monthly budget report. Are there any questions or thoughts on the reports?
I just want to pour one out for whoever's responding to all these FOIA requests, because it seems like we're going through a lot, so.
Becca, been busy, other people participate in these things. Eric, we have attorneys, it is what it is.
So we
Requirement.
appreciate you and thank you for going through all that shenanigans.
I did hear, I did hear that there's a bill that involves, I'm going to try to get this straight, the identification of the person requesting
Yeah, there was a-
information through a FOIA rather than anonymous. I don't know what kind of footing that's going to, it's in the Rules Committee right now. Jennifer Gong Gershowitz is actually the sponsor of the bill.
So you actually have to be a person to FOIA, not an AI. Or anonymous. Yeah.
I was talking to the village, 'cause we've had, I don't know, 40, maybe?
Yeah, I
ish,
think we're at about 40 for the year so far.
40 FOIAs. Now, I mean, I don't know that I've had 40 in 18 years, the 17 years prior to this year in total. I was talking to the village, though, they get 1,500 a year.
Is that someone's full-time job?
Almost in some of the municipal governments.
Not that FOIAs are bad, just that it'd be nice to know who's asking. Next, we have other business. Any other business? If there's no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you. One hour meeting. Under.
We said it at the same time.
We did.